Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we are taking a look at the Chicago Blackhawks superstar Patrick Kane. Yes, he is in the final year of his contract. We've made plenty of videos already on this topic, but there's a little bit more fuel to the fire as Patrick Kane and the Blackhawks have not necessarily had the great start to the season that we all expected. Never mind, we all knew they weren't going to be very good, but the Chicago Blackhawks are in a spot here with Patrick Kane where they kind of have to make that decision. Like, do we want to stick with this guy or not? And when you look at a couple of interesting factors, the New York Rangers name has been, that team name, it's kind of been floating around for Patrick Kane. Artemi Panarin, a former teammate of Patrick Kane, happens to reside in Manhattan, making some pretty good money. So the assumption out there is the Rangers could be one of those teams to go after Patrick Kane before the trade deadline. And this is a report from Larry Brooks, a New York Post writer for the New York Rangers, avid John Tortorella fan. If you guys know any of their history, make sure to look up John Tortorella interviews. A lot of the debacles he had in New York happened to be with Larry Brooks. So it's kind of interesting. I've always had a soft spot for Larry Brooks in that regard. But he's kind of stirring up the pot on the trade rumors. And he said the Rangers have 2 first-round picks, and that could make them the front runners for Patrick Kane. Now, again, I think it's even deeper than that, but it is worth mentioning. The Blackhawks, if they're looking to continue this rebuild, especially if they trade Kane and Taves before the deadline this year, which I think Taves being out is kind of a foregone conclusion. Same thing for Kane, honestly. There is draft picks to be had. Now, so the Rangers obviously have their first round pick, but they also have the Dallas Stars first round pick this year as well. So they got the pick in the Nils Lundkvist trade they made back in September. The New York Rangers traded Nils Lundkvist to the Dallas Stars. In exchange, the Dallas Stars gave a pretty hefty price, a 2023 first-round pick, which has a condition, and a 2025 fifth-round pick. So the condition on the fourth-round pick, which we're not really talking about today, so we're not even going to mention it. So that's the condition on the fourth-round pick. The first-round pick is the main one we have to look at. If the pick is a top 10 selection, the pick will instead become the Dallas's unprotected 2024 first-round pick. So either way, it is going to be a first-round pick. It's not one of those things where it becomes a second-round pick or something like that. It will be a first-round pick. So when you look at it that way, this could be a draft pick that the Blackhawks could use. And I think that's something to look at here. And the Rangers have a lot of assets. Not only, so they did trade Nils Lundkvist, who you could argue was one of those guys. But they got more value, I think, getting the first-round pick for Lundkvist than what he was really worth. So they have, let's just say, hypothetically, they give up this year's 2 first-round picks, Dallas's and their own. So 2 first-round picks for Patrick Kane. Who else could they also throw into that? Well, I think they like Filipino. I think that Gerard Gallant likes him in the lineup. I like him in that lineup as well. Filipino stays. Capo Caco probably stays. Vitaly Kravtsov has always been a wild card, but now that David Quinn's not there, I think he's going to get a real shot. Alexis Lafreniere, probably not going to be moving anytime soon. So who is on the block? I think they like Keandre Miller. I think they like Zach Jones. And I think they like Braden Schneider. But I think it's going to take one of those guys to get the deal done. And the Rangers have to decide which one of them is going to stay and which one of them is going to go. Now, if you look at the Rangers' blue line, they have a lot of good right-shot defensemen. Adam Fox and Jacob Trouba are here for a very long time. Trouba's contract ends in 2026, and Adam Fox is here to infinity and beyond. So Adam Fox and Jacob Trouba is kind of your right-side defense. So for the next 4 years. For the next 4 years, it's Trouba and Fox on the right side. And those are both right-shot defensemen, like I mentioned. Now, the only other right-shot defenseman on the roster is Braden Schneider. He's a 21-year-old defenseman on the second year of his entry-level contract. He burned that first year of his ELC last year with the Rangers and the Hartford Wolfpack. So he's in the second year of his entry-level contract, and it's a guy that when that contract ends in 2024 as an RFA, he might want more ice time, kind of like Nils Lundkvist did. Nils Lundkvist was kind of pushed out he kind of asked for a trade request. He requested a trade out of New York because he wasn't going to see the ice time. He saw where he sat on the depth chart in the Rangers' defensive lineup, and this is kind of where we're at. And you've got Adam Fox and Jacob Trouba and Braden Schneider on the right side. Then on the left side, you've got Ryan Lindgren, Zach Jones, Keandre Miller, and Libor Hayek. So the Rangers' left side is pretty solid too. So I think they like Lindgren. They've got Jones and Keandre Miller. You could get away with all three of those guys staying there. But again, I think it's going to come down to who are they most willing to give up, that one of those left shot defensemen and one of those right shot defensemen. It's going to come down to that, because what you're looking at, you have to consider here as well, is Zach Jones and Keandre Miller are both on the final years of their entry-level contracts. Do the Rangers have the money already kind of, put to the side to sign those guys to probably $3 to $4 million on an annual salary? $3 to $4 million per year. I don't know if they're going to be able to pay both of those guys. Well, if you keep Braden Schneider, you get another year of a guy on an entry-level contract, which could be a huge deal for the Rangers in that regard. So maybe it becomes one of Keandre Miller or Zach Jones that ends up going out the door. And I know Rangers fans have kind of had a love-hate relationship with Keandre Miller because he flashes, especially in his rookie season, he flashes with those incredible plays that are almost like, that was a defenseman that did that? And then he has other moments where he just turns the puck over, or it's an odd man rush because he wasn't back, and you're like, Keandre, what are you doing, man? So I totally understand that. And I think if I had to choose, I would keep Zach Jones. If I have to be honest, I like Zach Jones. I think he fits Gerard Gallant's kind of system a little bit better. But you could also make the argument for Miller, because Miller is more of that flashy defenseman. And Braden Schneider is that Western Canadian. He came from, I think it was Everett, the Everett Silvertips, or one of those teams in the WHL. He came from the Western Hockey League. They grow some big boys out there. And Braden Schneider is one of the latest in that category. So he brings that size and that grit and that edge on the right side. But so does Trouba, who's also on the right side. So the Rangers, again, you could kind of spin your wheels, kind of making the argument for who could go. But that's kind of what happens when you have the luxury of depth, especially at the blue line. That is extremely valuable. And the Rangers are kind of, taking the fruits of that labor right now. So let's just say devil's advocate, they like that defense, and Gallant says, no, we aren't trading any of those guys. We're keeping all of them this year. Hypothetically, just saying. I think that's what gets the deal done. 2 first-round picks and one of those 3 guys, you probably get the deal done for Kane on a rental deal. I know that Blackhawks fans will want more, but they're not going to get more on the market. You have to be realistic. A guy that's going to play 20 games and hasn't, unless it's a sign-and-trade with the Rangers, which that's a real possibility, you're not looking at that happening. You're just not looking at that kind of huge blockbuster package that they would probably like. Now, who else do the Rangers have? Now, the first one that comes up front in their system is Brennan Othmann. Basically, every game I go to MSG and I'm eating my garden burger, I see that there's another Flint Firebirds update from the Rangers, the blue shirts in, blue shirt prospects or whatever, and it's another highlight reel goal by Brennan Othmann. And that kid I would not touch with a 10-foot pole right now. Let him develop in Flint. He's an incredibly good hockey player in the OHL right now. Just let him continue to do his thing. Because I think when he comes up to the Rangers, he's going to be a perfect fit for this team. As some of those guys start to age a little bit in the next couple of years, you got Kreider, who's 31, Panarin, who's 31, Zibanejad's still young, 29, Trocheck's 29, Goudreau's 29. So there will be a potential spot for him in the Rangers lineup if it ever comes to that in the next 2 years. But then again, if the Rangers are looking at it in the sense, well, we don't have a spot for him and we're kind of wasting his talent and this is as good as he gets, well, then they maybe decide to trade him. But that's kind of it for forward prospects. There just isn't really much going on there. Tim Gettinger, Johnny Brodzinski, Laurie Pajuniemi is a guy that kind of draws my attention. Bobby Trevino, but none of these guys are that talented. None are on the level of Othman. I think we can agree to that. And even on defense right now, in terms of prospects, I think Hunter Skinner's pretty good. Matt Robertson hasn't even played. He's a guy that I think could be on the trade block as well. Dylan Garand is a very highly thought of goalie prospect, and that's exactly what the Rangers need, right? They already have Shesterkin. But Dylan Garand is a guy to watch. He's currently playing in juniors. So Ty Emberson, those are guys to kind of watch if you're a Rangers fan, because I think all those prospects could be on the table. But again, I think it comes down to if you're getting the final 30 games of Patrick Kane with no guarantee he signs in the summer, I think it's 2 first-round picks and one of those 3 defensemen I mentioned earlier. If it's anything longer, like a sign-and-trade, he signs the deal, then goes to the Rangers, then you're probably looking at those 2 first-round picks, one of those good defensemen, and probably a prospect. And then you might be looking at the territory of a Matt Robertson or a Ty Emberson potentially being on that list. But let me know what Rangers fans, what do you guys think of Patrick Kane coming to the Rangers? I know you guys like the idea of Patrick Kane coming back to the Rangers and playing alongside one of his former teammates in Artemi Panarin. It's going to cost a lot, but I think the Rangers do have what it takes to get that deal done. And you kind of wonder if they suffer from that superstar syndrome, which I think is kind of a custom in New York, especially with the Knicks and the Nets and stuff like that. It doesn't always necessarily work out, but I definitely think it's something to consider. And the idea of number 88 in the blue shirt colors, ooh, that is kind of a scary thought. As a rival fan of the New York Islanders, that's something that is a little bit terrifying. But let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching. Leave some mock trades down below. What would you be willing to give up for Patrick Kane? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.